Hello, hello! My name is Callista, and welcome back to When the Night Comes. In the last episode, we discovered that another hunter had indeed been killed. We have no way of knowing who it was. There wasn't really any body left, just some charred remains, and August is very clearly not taking it very well. Hopefully, we can help them out a little bit. August massages their temples, inhaling sharply. I notice that their hands are trembling, and I unconsciously take a step towards them, fearful that they might pass out. They hold out their hand. I'm fine, really. General.
I appreciate your concern, Hunter, really. Anything that ails me is my fault and mine alone.
But I want to help you! Now, please head back. I meant it when I said I need you rested. And we need you rested. When was the last time you slept?
You'll be the first to hear if anything significant happens. I'll send a messenger to retrieve you when the victim has been identified.
Of course. Good night, and stay safe. If you think I'm staying out here in this for another second, you're sorely mistaken. I have a mountain of paperwork the size of the ibex on my desk. Farewell, Camille. I take a final look at the scene where the Enforcer witches have cast their mage lights over a bloodied patch of grass, leaving them to their work, no matter how much I long to investigate. After that outburst, it's best not to question my Enforcer's request. I bow my head before I turn, eager to get out of here. As I head back through the woodland, I notice how eerily silent it is. A strange sense of calm washes over me. Then, a whisper. Harry. I stop dead in my tracks, my hand hovering over my weapon. Is this James? I see nothing, feel nothing, no matter how hard I concentrate. Then I realise that voice, the familiar yet subdued ache that begins to creep into my temple. James? You deserve to know. The pain ebbs and flows, my breathing growing unsteady, almost as if something weighs heavy upon my chest. James, if you're trying to knock me out, could you maybe wait until I'm out of the murder forest? That'd be great. The fleeting, comforting calm that had just settled over me is snatched away as his voice continues to echo in my mind. Know what? I'm sorry. A sharp, burning pain shoots up along my spine and I fall to the ground. The snow-covered grass is wet beneath my fingertips. His words were cut off, and after a moment, I'm yet again surrounded by a blissful silence. Fucking ghosts. I drag myself to my feet, and now I only have one thing on my mind. One thing that I must do. Visit the Lieutenant General and find out what the hell is happening to me. After having no luck finding him in his own office, I head to the only other place I assume he may be at this hour. The door to August's office is thankfully ajar, so I peek around the frame, finding Harry standing alone. He has a report in his hand, his coat hung on the back of August's chair. He looks exhausted, his eyes red-rimmed. However, when he notices me, he still offers me a bright, earnest smile.
I can't tell you how relieved I am to see you safe.
Okay. My throat feels tight, and I can't quite place why. James is doing a good job of making it difficult for me to stop thinking about him. The pain I felt from his final moment was raw, like an exposed nerve. For some reason, when I think of it, I now think of Harry. I said this before and I'll say it again. I'm getting twist villain vibes. They could do the double twist, but I don't know. I don't know what to make of this guy. I need to know why he wanted me to come here. Why everything seems to point back to the man standing before me. I need to tell you something, but I need you to promise that you won't think I've lost my mind. Harry narrows his gaze, nodding once. Go on. I visited the graveyard a few days ago while I was getting my bearings. He stays silent, but I can't help but notice the way his knuckles bleed white as he tightens his fist. I do notice his wedding ring, right there. And if I'm remembering correctly, when Harry was talking about what we know about James, he was messing with his wedding ring. It said he was twisting it around his finger. Considering that this was made by a very LGBT-friendly company, I'm going to make the assumption that James is Harry's husband. Because that's the only reason why, if you're talking about someone who is deceased, you'd mess with your wedding ring if they were your partner. That's the connection I'm making there. That's the theory I'm going with. If I was wrong, I'd be fine with that. But that's what I think is going on. If they weren't married, then they at least had a deep emotional connection. To the point where Harry would be, he's thinking about, his wedding ring. He's messing with it as he's talking about James. That implies emotional bond. He stays silent, but I can't help but notice the way his knuckles bleed white as he tightens his fist. I felt an overwhelming sense of grief there. Pain, a yearning for lost love, a sense of failure and crippling sorrow. I thought nothing of it at the time. It's not unheard of for those that have been murdered to feel scared or sentimental in their final moments, in my experience. But Harry drops his gaze, his bright eyes sad and edged with tears. Yeah, this is taking a toll on him. James and Harry were lovers. And not even lovers, they were married. They were clearly husbands. Like that. I'd put money on that. I don't know if he's the twist villain, but I would put money on them being married. My words threaten to catch in my throat, but I relent. The other night I visited again. It was almost like something was pulling me there. I heard more, not just a memory this time. He spoke to me. He looks like he's seen a ghost. He stares at me wide-eyed, quickly swiping at his cheeks.
Oh, James.
I get the horrible feeling that he's been waiting for this. I need to know. He nods, clearly understanding. Then he takes a deep, shuddering breath.
James was assigned as my very first hunter the moment we both graduated at 18. He'd shown remarkable promise in school, basically skipping all of the junior nonsense that they force on you. I, too, had impressed, so we were placed together in the hopes that we'd become unstoppable. We were inseparable in the field together for decades, until I took this post as Lieutenant General.
A pause, and another deep breath. One that shakes.
But, as well as being my subordinate, he was also my partner.
Knew it.
My husband.
My heart sinks, bile rising in my throat. I've read countless reports about him and the infamous Hunter Lane over the years, but I never knew his first name or anything about him other than his incomparable work. Official records tend to omit personal details for the safety of the hunter or enforcer. In question... Oh, excuse me, I completely misread that. Let me try that again. Official records tend to omit personal details for the safety of the hunter or enforcer in question, unless they become a leader like Harry. They were inimitable, the best of the best. Together, they killed some of the most nefarious creatures in our history, and, without question, every young trainee aspires to be just like Hunter Lane. To think that he's just gone, and what Harry must be going through. I'm so sorry, I had no idea.
For nearly 10 years, yes. But we'd known each other forever. I failed the hunter initiation quite dramatically, and he was taken away to his father's home country to train to become what I'd always dreamed of becoming. Life had other plans for me, but we still found each other in the end.
Oh, I'm really hoping he's not the twist villain now, because that means he killed James, and I'm like, no, I know they haven't been on screen together, but he speaks of him so fondly, I'm like, I ship it.
He used to joke that we were destined. The romantic fool. I really don't think it's sunk in that he's gone just yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, bud.
I keep thinking he's going to walk through my door, covered head to toe in blood and grime, with a stupid, wonderful grin on his face.
Oh, I'm actually choking up. I don't know why. I'm not normally this emotional. Oh, sweetheart. I think it's probably because I've mentioned this before. My boyfriend is coming to visit me. We haven't seen each other in 2 years. So, oh, bud. I notice how his eyes light up when he talks about him.
They say that people deal with grief differently, but I haven't quite figured mine out just yet. I apologize for not telling you, but it was important to me that I could trust you first. My judgment has been impaired, I'll admit it, though this turn of events isn't exactly what I expected. All I can think about now is justice. About the others that died before him, and what we could have done to stop it. What I could have done to stop it.
What did he tell you? When he spoke to you? His words waver, and he mindlessly fiddles with his wedding band, eagerly awaiting my response. I think about what Ezra said, about being careful who I share this with. Did that warning apply to the Lieutenant General of all of Escria? Oh, God, I don't know. I don't trust this guy. I'm gonna be brutally honest. I do not trust him. I have seen too many films with twist villains, and that's the vibe I'm getting from him. At the same time, I'm like, I don't want him to be the twist villain. I like him so far. I like the romance he's, telling me about with his husband, and I'm like, I want to tell him the truth because I feel badly for him that he's lost his husband and they seemed really sweet together. At the same time, I'm like, I don't trust you. I don't trust you at all. Ooh. Oh god, this is also our boss. I was gonna say he'd probably be able to tell we were lying, however, enforcers don't have the empath abilities. It's only hunters who seem to be able to, gauge how others are feeling, so he actually might not be able to tell that we're lying. Still, what I absolutely don't want to do is lie, and then Harry's like, James would never say that. That's completely out of his character. Why are you talking bullshit? That's the issue I have. We don't really know who James was. And if we lie, we could say something completely out there that's going to give it away that we lied. I'm trying to think, what has James said? James, he said that he was sorry. I think he spoke of love, and he said that we had to run. There was no hope here. I don't think James has said anything not incriminating, but you know what I'm talking about. He's not said anything that's like, oh shit, that's a big clue. I don't think there's any harm in telling him the truth. We haven't heard anything that I'm kind of like, that's really important. Or at least nothing that feels super important. Okay. He told me to leave. That he failed and that there's no hope. He swallows thickly. His expression unchanging. I got the impression he wanted to say more, but I don't know how he managed to communicate with me in the first place. I think he can only say so much before he fades away. It feels like a great struggle for him to reach out. I cannot explain it. He closes his eyes tight, shaking his head as if he can't bear to hear any more.
I will need you to speak to Augustus about this. They know more about psionic magic than anyone here. I'm sure they'll be able to help you figure this out. I do not trust anyone else.
I find it interesting that Harry has jumped to psionic magic because... Here's the thing, we know James wasn't using magic because witches can't become hunters. And maybe someone else is using psionic magic to connect James to us. That could explain it, I don't know. Then, a hopeful look.
Did he truly not say anything else?
He didn't. But the first night that I felt him, I could tell how much he loved you, Harry. You were all he could think about in his final moments. He laughs quietly.
Yes. Well, he's all I can think about too. A curse now, I suppose.
Silence hangs heavy between us, and I don't quite know what to say next. In this case, I don't think you need to say anything, Camille. Sometimes words aren't necessary. He looks devastated, understandably. He must have so much on his mind already with the latest murder, and now this. The way he came alive when he spoke about James didn't go unnoticed, and I wonder if maybe talking about him would lift his mood. There's a lot of hunters out there that can only aspire to be half as brilliant as Hunter Lane. I'd love to hear what he was like, if you don't mind. His somber expression disappears, and he seems to brighten up a little.
He was a cocky son of a bitch, but it worked well for him in the field. He was never careless, though. I often found myself watching him instead of paying attention to whatever was attacking us. Luckily, he could fight well enough to protect us both, or I'm sure we'd have been in trouble. A lot of enforcers choose to stay cooped up in a stuffy office away from all that danger. Working with James made me not want to miss a thing.
Aww. He digs into his coat pocket, retrieving his wallet and pulling out a small, weathered photo. He pauses, staring me down as if he has his reservations, but then he hands it over. Oh! Hello! Hello, James! It's nice to put a face to the name. Oh. This is making me stupidly emotional. I don't appreciate it. It's of him and James. They look young, beyond happy, and impossibly in love. And he doesn't have his scar. I noticed that.
We were unbearable to be around, I'm sure.
I think that's sweet. I study the genuine smiles and the way their fingers are laced together. I may not know James aside from the voice in my head, but I feel a strange connection to him, as if I've also known him forever. Thank you for showing me. He tucks the photo back into its place, right beside a neatly folded up letter.
Well, apparently he appears to have taken a liking to you. It's only fair for you to put a face to the name, I suppose.
He stares down at his hand once again, twisting his wedding band. His expression is neutral when he meets my gaze, but in a split second, his disposition shifts to the stiff formality I'm so used to when dealing with figures of authority. I gather that our conversation about his dearly departed is over.
What happened tonight could have been prevented. It's unacceptable that we were so aware of the looming threat, and yet we let our guard down and lost another life. This cannot happen again.
Sir, with all due respect, you were the one who wanted the Lunar Festival to go ahead. I mean, what... This'll sound rather cowardly, but what we could have done, considering this creature, this person, like, whatever it is, it has to be a creature, right? If it is burning the body to the point where, if I'm gathering this correctly, there aren't even bones left. That's incredibly hot. Normal fire really can't do that. So clearly, whatever this thing is, it has to be a creature. It can't just be like a guy. It's not Frank from down the road, you know. Whatever is doing this, it's only targeting hunters. So what we could have done, yeah, the Lunar Festival is going on, but all of the hunters bunker down somewhere. Or maybe we could have set a trap, have some hunters in the forest, and then the other hunters are like hiding, ready to spring out and attack the son of a bitch. Like, we could have done that, but instead everyone's at the festival where everyone's spaced out and people can be picked off. That... As I said, I like this guy, but I'm also like, you kind of let us be in a situation where this could happen very easily. That's why I don't trust him. I like him, I don't trust him. Did he... I can't remember if he said this line or not, so fuck it, I'll repeat it. What happened tonight could have been prevented. It's unacceptable that we were so aware of the looming threat, and yet we let our guard down and lost another life. This cannot happen again. I nod, agreeing wholeheartedly, but I cannot shake the feeling that, yes, this could have been prevented if it weren't for the festival. I'm glad to see that we're on the same page, Camille. The festival, he was so adamant went ahead despite others' clear apprehension, including August. I think better of pressing the matter. Harry suddenly doesn't seem like a man willing to admit fault. Did you speak to the twins as I requested? I did. As I'm sure you expected, I didn't get much out of them. A quiet hum, which I think is an indifferent agreement, and Harry sighs heavily. They are rather adept at both lying and sheer avoidance. I am interested in speaking to the brother alone, though. There was something off about him, like he just didn't want to be there. I also came across a letter outside the building, one that was addressed to him. The language looked demonic. Harry nods, indifferent, and I wonder if he even heard me. He clears his throat and flicks his eyes to the side as though he has no interest in humouring me any longer.
There's nothing more you can do here until we've identified the victim. Get some rest. It's late. You're dismissed, Hunter.
Though I'm used to being addressed in such a manner, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't perplexed by the shift in his demeanour. I chalk it down to grief, just like he said, but I can't help but feel like maybe I've disappointed him somehow. I turn and I quietly leave. James William Lane. Name, James William Lane. Rank, General. Location, Lunaris Escria. Specialization, Combat and Weaponry. Weapon, Kapesh. Confirmed kills, 5,382. Triple rated kills, 67. Enforcer notes. Hunter Lane continues to meet any and all of the rather large expectations I had as I learned to work with him after his transfer to my command. His tenacity and skills are second to none, and I find myself rarely having to give him any orders whatsoever. He is quick and unforgiving in the field, and handles any and all missions swiftly and with grace. He is a pleasure to work with, and a firm favourite within Lunaris' headquarters. It's almost impossible not to like him, and his guidance, which he gives freely and often, is invaluable to some of our younger recruits. Harold Addington. Status: deceased. And you know what? I think I'm going to leave this episode off right here. In the next one, will James allow Camille to get some rest? I'm not too sure. But until then, please remember to like if you enjoyed, leave a comment below, and if you wanted to subscribe, it would be very much appreciated. I've been Callista. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.